Music is love. When we hear great music, it stimulates the brain and enables us to feel connection with others who share that feeling of love through the joy of listening. Music brings us to a better place. Over the course of the last 100 years, the world of classical music lost a significant portion of what was for centuries a much larger audience than we have today. 100 years ago, Igor Stravinsky completed his 3 great ballets. Bela Bartok and Paul Hindemith formulated their new musical languages. A young Aaron Copland emerged with his fresh approach to composing music, along with other great pioneers. Today, the record-buying public for classical music is hovering at around 3.5%. We didn't have the same kind of statistical tracking capability in the years 1915 to 1920, but classical music was a prominent part of our world culture. What drove audiences away? During that time period, another type of new music also emerged. This music often involved complex systems and mathematical manipulations, the result of which was music the human brain could not decipher. Audiences rejected the music of these composers and shunned concerts in which these pieces were performed, and still today. Beginning with Arnold Schoenberg, a trend of elitist composers, many with modest capabilities, developed a variety of systems, and they became entrenched at universities, driving an even deeper wedge between audiences and the creators of new works. But the question is, why doesn't this music work? It is partly because these composers relied on systems and largely ignored compositional technique. Some of you may be familiar with an innovative 20th century French composer by the name of Olivier Messiaen. Messiaen experimented with harmony, seeking out new ways of creating sound combinations in a contextual sense designed to elicit unexpected emotional responses. He sought out new paths for creating beauty. Messiaen authored a treatise published in the 1940s called The Technique of My Musical Language. In the preface, he wrote, quote, "The technique of my musical language is language from a triple point of view, rhythmic, melodic, and harmonic. This work is not a treatise on composition," unquote. Messiaen is absolutely correct. The primary elements of compositional technique are not rhythm, melody, and harmony. So if not rhythm, not melody, and not harmony, what do we have left? What separates great composers from the rest of the pack? What are the compositional techniques they used in their music that we can't find in textbooks? Rarely taught are the primary elements. They include controlled repetition, temporization, the interaction of sound and silence, recognition of how human brains process and create their own sounds, musical threads and motives that weave a musical tapestry, common tones, which I like to call the glue that keeps music from falling apart, and lastly, musical arch. These are the primary elements that comprise compositional technique Messiaen was referring to. These first emerged in the late works of Haydn, and were then carried forward through the centuries by Mozart, Beethoven, Brahms, Stravinsky, Bartok, Britten, and others. The use of Haydn's remarkable compositional techniques are not limited to classical music. They are manifest in music of any genre, including jazz, commercial songs, Broadway shows, and film scores. Many composers and teachers of composition at universities throughout the world have ignored the distinctions noted by Messiaen between musical language and compositional technique, and have lacked access to the great art and techniques of musical composition. Compositional techniques plus musical language equals great music. One without the other simply does not add up. I hope to encourage composers to return to the compositional techniques that make music great. It is my mission to enable composers and audiences to reconnect in the joyful experience of making and listening to great new works of art. Yes, music is love and brings us to a better place.